Here is today's featured headline in space. China is improving communications with the United States on space safety. Today is October 2nd, 2025, and you're listening to Space News First Up brought to you by Black Sky.
And now a word from our sponsor, Black Sky. Black Sky empowers customers to see, understand, and anticipate change with real-time space-based intelligence, delivering on-demand, high-frequency satellite imagery, analytics, and dynamic monitoring for decisive strategic and tactical advantage. Visit blacksky.com to learn more.
Here are today's other top headlines. The U.S. military is taking steps to better understand how startups can fit into its plans. The Space Force is seeking proposals for satellite antennas that can communicate directly with SpaceX's Starlink constellation. Germany's planned massive investment in military space systems could be a game-changing moment for the German and European space industry. Lockheed Martin is studying what it would take to offer the Orion spacecraft as a service, including to non-NASA customers. And the exploration company is still investigating what went wrong in the final phases of a test flight of a reentry capsule in June.
First Up is produced by Space News, the industry standard for professional space journalism. Visit spacenews.com for breaking news, policy updates, and original analysis.
We begin with news that China is improving communications with the United States on space safety. During a panel Thursday at the International Astronautical Congress, IAC, Alvin Drew, NASA's Director of Space Sustainability, said the agency heard from its Chinese counterpart, the China National Space Administration, CNSA, recently about a potential close approach of their spacecraft. CNSA said it informed NASA it would maneuver to avoid a close approach. That is a change from past interactions, he said, which primarily involved one-way communications from NASA to CNSA with little or no acknowledgement from China. Others at the conference said that Chinese constellation operators have contacted OneWeb and SpaceX about conjunctions, suggesting a change in policy in China about such interactions. The U.S. military is taking steps to better understand how startups can fit into its plans. In recent weeks, Major General Stephen Purdy, who leads procurement for the Space Force, paid visits to Northwood Space, a startup building next-generation antennas, as well as commercial space station developer VAST. These visits by Purdy and other military officials are meant to size up the commercial space sector's progress firsthand and how their work might fit national security needs as the Pentagon works to improve procurement. A mix of executive orders, new contracting approaches, and closer ties between defense leaders and investors has some experts believing this latest reform drive may be different from the past. The Space Force is seeking proposals for satellite antennas that can communicate directly with SpaceX's Starlink constellation. Space Systems Command, SSC, through its Spectrum Warfare Office, said the project is in support of the Golden Dome Missile Defense Initiative. The planned demonstration would use radio frequency communications terminals to establish satellite-to-satellite links between a Starlink payload and a mock space-based interceptor. SSC is seeking low size, weight, and power radios that can be demonstrated on orbit within 12 months. Germany's planned massive investment in military space systems could be a game-changing moment for the German and European space industry. German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius said last week that the country would spend 35 billion euros, $41 billion, on military space projects over the next 5 years. While details about the projects that will be funded remain scarce, space industry officials in Europe say the program could be a watershed moment for the industry and encourage other European countries to invest more in space. Lockheed Martin is studying what it would take to offer the Orion spacecraft as a service, including to non-NASA customers. At the IAC this week, Lockheed announced an agreement with a non-profit, BioAstra, to study a concept for a deep space biomedical research mission using Orion. Lockheed intends to use the study to see what is required to offer Orion to customers other than NASA. The company announced in July it was exploring a shift from traditional contracts to a service-based approach for Orion in response to NASA policy changes on Artemis. Lockheed believes that it can move gradually towards a services model, taking over capabilities currently provided by NASA. The exploration company is still investigating what went wrong in the final phases of a test flight of a re-entry capsule in June. The Mission Possible spacecraft successfully operated in orbit after launch on a SpaceX transporter rideshare mission and survived re-entry. But controllers lost contact soon after re-entry, and the capsule's parachutes did not deploy. At the IAC Thursday, an executive with the exploration company said the firm is still working to figure out what happened during that final phase of the mission. The European company is pressing ahead with its Nix capsule, slated to make a flight to the International Space Station in 2028, and the company doesn't expect what happened to Mission Possible to have a major effect on those plans.
Discover your next mission in the space industry with the Space News Job Exchange. Visit jobs.spacenews.com to find top aerospace roles and connect with leading employers. And for employers, use discount code JOBEX for 15% off your next purchase.
In other news, Blue Origin says it is making good progress toward its second New Glenn launch. At an IAC presentation this week, a company executive said processing of the rocket and its payload, NASA's Escapade Mars mission, is going well. The company has not disclosed a specific launch date, although a NASA official said last week that the launch would likely take place in late October or early November. A former White House official says states have a responsibility to inform citizens, including commercial spacecraft operators, of cyber threats. In a paper presented at IAC this week, Diane Howard, former commercial space policy director for the National Space Council, said states have a responsibility to share credible threat intelligence proactively, to provide warnings of cyber threats, including to space systems. That is based on the experience from Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022, which included cyber attacks on Viasat's Ka-sat network and SpaceX's Starlink. Government action to help satellite operators ward off cyber threats could also help stabilize markets, she noted.
Share your company's news with the entire space industry through Stellar Dispatch, the press release service from Space News. Learn more and use discount code SD2106 for 15% off when you submit yours at spacenews.com/Stellar Dispatch.
Startup X Labs won a Space Force contract to support work on its reconfigurable satellites. The $1.9 million Direct-to-Phase 2 SBIR award from Space Systems Command will allow X Labs to advance development of Survsum, a heavy-class, reconfigurable spacecraft. Survsum will be based on the company's space exploration and resource vehicle that it has been developing for deep space missions, such as to the asteroid Apophis. The University of Western Australia has completed what it calls the first optical ground station network in the Southern Hemisphere. TerraNet, announced Thursday, includes 2 ground stations in Western Australia and a third, mobile ground station. The network is designed to support high-speed laser communications with satellites. The manifest for Blue Origin's next New Shepard flight includes both a repeat customer and an anonymous one. The company announced Wednesday 5 of the 6 people who will fly on the NS-36 mission in the near future. They include Clint Kelly III, who flew on the NS-22 mission in 2022. 4 others are executives and entrepreneurs. Blue Origin said a 6th person elected to remain anonymous until after the flight. Bloomberg reports that SpaceX is no longer the world's most valuable private company. A sale of shares by OpenAI employees to a group of investors valued the AI company at $500 billion. That eclipses SpaceX's valuation of $400 billion set in its most recent sale of shares on the secondary market. OpenAI had previously been valued at $300 billion.